Everybody, this is Brian Johansson, CEO of the Adler Group, and today I'm going to give you an overview of our Recruiter Bootcamp program. This overview is going to be a mini overview, and I'm going to spend about 15 minutes and hopefully entice you to explore a little bit more and perhaps even join us for an upcoming Recruiter Bootcamp program near you. We are on the road all the time, and usually in major cities doing boot camps. If you want to get the latest schedule of our live tour, you can go to www.louadlergroup.com, and you'll see a listing of all the live events that we have. But we also deliver it online every month, starting on the first Friday generally, in 2-hour modules. So we'll give the first module on the first Friday of the month, second module the second Friday, and so on, all the way through the end of the year through November. We don't do it during the month of December. But I encourage you to go to louadlergroup.com and check out the current tour schedule, which is the live program, or the online schedule. And we also offer the program in a private version, which we give for companies who have larger groups of recruiters. So just be aware that you can get that information there. Let me give you a quick understanding of what we do in our Recruiter Bootcamp and why it's important. Everything we do is based on Lou Adler's book, Hire With Your Head, and on a philosophy of hiring called performance-based hiring. Sometimes we call it inside down, upside down, inside out, and backwards, because our viewpoint on things is fundamentally different than a lot of the recruiters take in the world. And so let me give you the 4 areas that we focus on and give you some idea of what we'll be talking about. And these actually correspond to the 4 modules in the online version of Recruiter Bootcamp. The first concept is simply this. We believe that if you're going to attract a top person, you've got to have a top job. That means that you've got to understand what the performance is for the job. We call that performance profiling. And the job has to be compelling. And in order to do that, as a recruiter, we have to understand what the job is, what it is that the person has to do to be considered successful. That's the first step in this process. And in fact, Module 1 of Recruiter Bootcamp is all about taking the assignment, working with the hiring manager, understanding that performance, understanding and creating a pitch to attract the right person, and ultimately sharing that pitch with a prospect. Second concept in performance-based hiring is talent-centric sourcing. It's a very simple concept, and it goes something like this. If you want to attract the top half of the top half, you have to know how that top half of the top half is looking for a new opportunity. And then you are going to take your sourcing efforts and match them to what those people are doing. Most of the sourcing that we see out in the marketplace is not geared toward the top half of the top half. It's really geared for somebody who needs a job or an average employee. And so we're going to turn this upside down, inside out, and backwards, and we're going to teach you how to source top talent for positions which there's competition, and there aren't enough candidates to go around. That's talent-centric sourcing. Target the best people and target them in the way that they want to be targeted. The third module of Recruiter Bootcamp is really evidence-based interviewing, and we believe that with our methodology, performance-based hiring, you can conduct a great interview with only 2 core questions. And we will teach you what those questions are, and we will teach you how to assess a candidate after you've conducted that interview. Finally, it does no good to be good at understanding the job, sourcing candidates, and interviewing candidates if you can't get them closed. And so the 4th module in our Recruiter Bootcamp is really this idea of integrated recruiting, recruiting right from the start. The idea that recruiting is not an event that happens after you decide to hire somebody. It is something that's integrated into every step of the process. Every interaction with that candidate is a recruiting moment, and it needs to be leveraged, and it needs to be orchestrated in a way to get that candidate closed. And we talk about that. Overarching all of that is this idea that the recruiter and the manager must be in a partnership. And I think recruiters have a difficult job. So let me just make this statement, which is recruiters live in a world with hiring managers who have certain beliefs. Your managers may have beliefs like what you see here on the screen. Candidates are easy to find. Recruiters have a ready supply. People are begging to work here. The economy is so bad we can offer 10% below market and still get great talent. Hopefully your organization is more enlightened than this, but I can tell you in many of the organizations that we visit, when we do recruiting audits and we go in and we look at the recruiting functions, we see and hear these types of things from hiring managers. So much of what we do in the Recruiter Bootcamp is focused on how do we control and work with hiring managers to overcome some of these objections that they have. Now, to do this as a recruiter, you have to manage the recruiting funnel. Our belief is that for most positions, there is a scarcity of talent, not a surplus of talent. In the Recruiter Bootcamp, we'll talk about both, but if there is a scarcity of talent, there is a process by which you will bring candidates in. There's a talent pool with a list of names. There's leads and referrals that you get from your own employees and from other sources. There are prospects, which are really the output of a recruiter talking to somebody and turning somebody into an interested prospect. There are candidates, which you will see. There are finalists, and ultimately there are hires. This is the scarcity recruiting funnel. There is a tendency for people to want to jump directly from the talent pool to the candidate pool. And you can do that with an ad on a job board. You can get a talent pool, but the quality of candidates may not be what you want if there's a scarce resource of those types of candidates out there. So we talk to recruiters, and in the Recruiter Bootcamp, we're going to talk about all of these components. We're going to talk about doing a supply versus demand analysis on the types of jobs you're recruiting. We're going to talk about how you get to a quality candidate pool very quickly. We're going to talk about what it takes to take a lead and turn it to a prospect. We're going to talk about how we get that prospect pool in a certain period of time, and then how we convert that prospect pool into a core group of candidates that then become hires. Now let me give you some stats, things to think about. We believe that if you've got a good recruiter who's well-trained and capable, their ratio of leads to prospects will be about 80%. Why? Because they've qualified that lead pool. We also believe that a good recruiter should be able to source 4 qualified prospects within 72 hours of getting an assignment. And that's using the tool sets that are available like LinkedIn and other tools that are available out on the web. We also believe that once you've got a prospect, 60% of those should turn into candidates. And ultimately, a manager should see 4 finalists to make a hire. If they're seeing 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, the recruiter's doing the search over and over again. They're doing it twice or 3 times, and that's not very productive. We believe that if you manage this funnel appropriately, you're going to maximize quality, you're going to minimize time to hire, and you're going to minimize the cost per hire. Now, that presupposes a couple of little things, and I'm just going to put some things up here really quickly. There is a problem with the hiring process, and the problem is simply this. When we go out and we spec a job traditionally, we're focused on what we call before day one information. We're focused on the candidate's skills, their experience, their requirements, meaning what they have, the degrees they have, the academics, and maybe if we've been well-trained, competencies. That's what I call before day one stuff. That's the history. When we engage with the candidate wants to know a few things about the job. What's the title, what's the company, what's the location, dollars and responsibilities. Interestingly, when you talk about to candidates, when they take a position, they're not as focused on before day one or day one stuff. They're much more focused on what's the work I'm going to be doing, what's the impact I get to make, what do I get to learn, who's on the team, who do I get to work for, what's the total comp over time. And then they are also interested in what's the upside opportunity, what's the long-term career impact for me, and the long-term dollar benefit for me. We call this hiring the top 25% from A to Z. Now, we advertise and phone screen on before day one and day one. The candidate will opt in based on, oh, you got this title, company, location, dollars, and responsibilities. But the truth is, the acceptance criteria is year one and beyond year one criteria. And this is a big disconnect. So the truth is, a recruiter who is good must manage moment one. A good recruiter must manage the information that gets sent to a candidate on that moment when they pick up the phone and they talk to a passive candidate, and shift the candidate away from before day one and day one to year one and beyond year one, because that is the decision-making criteria that will ultimately win out. Now, in the interview, they need to assess, the candidate needs to assess whether year one and beyond year one is a good match for them, and whether the candidate and the hiring manager needs to assess whether the candidate can perform the job. And so there shouldn't be a question about these things. Typically in the marketplace, we see people focused on before day one and day one stuff, and it creates some problems. In boot camp, we really pick this apart, and we try to focus on how do we overcome some of the inherent process deficiencies in this hiring from A to Z example. A couple of takeaways that are very important for this. Takeaway number one, hiring top talent needs to emphasize long-term, not short-term factors. Number two, Traditional job descriptions do not meet the standard for hiring top talent. They repel top talent. They don't attract top talent. Point 3, past performance is and always has been the single best predictor of future performance. And in order to do this, you've got to have a unifying process so that everybody is doing the right stuff all along the way. That's what performance-based hiring is all about. And that's what we focus on in Recruiter Bootcamp. Now, let me just ask this question of everybody listening. I assume you're listening to this either because you're a recruiter and you want to get better, or you're a recruiting manager and you want your recruiters to get better. When we start boot camp, we ask this question: how much better do you really want to become? Do you want to get 10% better or 20% better, or do you want to get 100% better at recruiting? And I will tell you most of the answers are, I want to get 100% better. I don't want to just get 10% or 20% better. I want a big improvement. If you as a recruiter or recruiting manager want to get better, or your team better, you have to change the fundamentals of what you're doing. You can get incrementally better by modifying some of the things you're doing. But if you want to get 100% better, you've really got to challenge and ask the question, is what I'm doing attracting top talent? And that's what the boot camp will do for you. That requires some metrics. So let me give you some metrics to think about. And these are the metrics we talk through in Recruiter Bootcamp. Number 1, a recruiter and a manager will never have more than 4 interviews before they hire somebody. And the manager should own that. The manager should insist that they're going to see 4 good candidates and make a decision. The recruiter should not own that metric. Second metric, quality of hire must be a B+ or better. The commitment from the recruiter to the manager is, I will not present to you anybody who's not a B+ or better candidate. And that requires some work. And it requires the manager to help the recruiter know what success looks like before the job is actually posted. The recruiter agrees to deliver 4 to 5 prospects for the manager to look at within 72 hours of receiving the assignment and understanding the job. And when the recruiter and the manager get together and debrief about the candidates that they both screened, there should not be more than a half a point variance in the scorecard used to rank them. In the boot camp, we give you a scorecard. It's a multi-factor candidate assessment. It's a 1 to 5 scale. And if the scorecard variance is greater than a half a point, something is wrong in the process. And we want you to be able to identify what that is and troubleshoot it and get back on track so you can meet the metrics that we're showing you here on the screen. Ultimately, if you'll do that, quality of hire will go up. Time to hire will go down. And cost per hire will also go down. These are the key metrics that we talk about. Now, it takes a lot of effort and time to get all of that together. And so our Recruiter Bootcamp is really focused on what are the tools you need to be able to do this and do it consistently and do it over and over again. So with that as the backdrop, what you actually get when you come to Recruiter Bootcamp is a whole lot of stuff. We have the live programs that you see on the top. We have Recruiter Bootcamp Online that you see on the bottom. If you sign up for our online program or one of our live programs, you can come back and attend any public Recruiter Bootcamp, online or live, for up to a year with no additional fee. That's a great benefit. We also offer training for managers, because often after we train the recruiters realize, well, my managers need to understand some things. And so we have a performance-based training exclusively for managers. We also offer a LinkedIn Advanced Recruiter course. We call it the LinkedIn Master Course. And if you come to our Recruiter Bootcamp and complete the certification process, which is offered to you at no additional charge, you can come to the LinkedIn Master Course for no additional charge for up to a year as well. Now, one of the things we give you is an e-learning center. And in the e-learning center, you get access to tools, forms, interview documents. We even have the eRecruiter's Handbook, which has many scripts on how to recruit people, how to engage with people, how to call up a passive candidate. All of that is there and available to you for 1 year, and you can renew it the year after that if you so desire. So the idea here is you're not signing up for a one-day program. You're signing up for a whole year of coaching for multiple programs and the ability to really improve your performance as a recruiter over time. That, in a nutshell, is the Recruiter Bootcamp. We highly recommend that recruiters who come become performance-based hiring certified. It will make a huge difference in their ability to implement some of the things that we're talking about and meet those quality metrics and other metrics that we just talked about. So in conclusion, let me just say this. We highly recommend that you come to the Recruiter Bootcamp. Check it out. Go to www.louadlergroup.com, and you will see all of the programs that we offer. You can see the agenda. You can see the instructors. I am one of those instructors. I've been teaching with Lou for the last 11 years, and we have really never had anybody come to the Recruiter Bootcamp who didn't walk away saying that was well worth my time, my energy, and the investment that I made. Thank you for being here today. And if you have any questions, please contact us at info@adlerconcepts.com or fill out the form online, and you can just check